Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are back, season 3, The Journey to Success, episode 8, Failure is Not the End. In our last episode, we discussed the growing pains to success and how in our journey to success, every level of achievement requires a different version of you. If you guys missed that, go back and watch it because it was amazing. It was a 2-part episode. But today, episode 8, we will be having a vulnerable and transparent discussion that God has placed on Antoine's heart to share with us, such as the importance of being consistent in leaning into God through the highs and lows, and understanding how a deep relationship with God is key to leading a fulfilled life. But before we get into all of that, Antoine, I want to check in with you. How you doing? How's your week been?
Oh, the week's been great. My daughter's here. We're getting out and about
Oh,
here in Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina. And yeah, it's been good. I'm learning new ways of how to balance and balancing my daughter being here, which is different because she's not here all year long. And then also like some work and other things I have going on. So new challenges, new skills, new muscles that God has me working on. So I'm grateful for all of that. And yeah, I'm just glad to be back recording, putting another episode out there with you.
yeah, no, I mean, and I'm excited that, we're recording something that God had placed, in your heart today to talk about. It's not always easy to be vulnerable and transparent. So I'm just excited to see, where this, episode is going to go with everything that has been going on with you and where you're currently at. So I'm excited for that. Me, man, everything has been since the last time that we spoke and we met. I know I had gotten a little vulnerable and transparent myself, specifically dealing with my business and the things I knew God asked of me in the business that I knew I wasn't doing. And I was saying that, different levels of achievement is going to require different levels of me, right? And I definitely am proud to say that some of the things that I knew I had to stretch myself, some of the things I knew I had to start doing, I did. And I can only do that with God because, God knows my fears. He knows the things that I kind of am like, oh, can I really do that? And man, let me tell you something, man. I have been on it with recording reels and posting content and doing the things that I knew I had to do in order to engage those leads coming into my DMs so that they can feel trust, so that we can go on a call and they can want to work with me without having the, I don't trust you, I don't know you. Remember, we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
that. And literally in the last just like week or two, I have been honing in, posting reels, posting content, posting about my my lifestyle, like where I live and stuff like that. And I've gotten on a couple calls, and I'm so glad to be able to report back that every single person that I've gotten on a call on has closed. Every single person that I've wanted to close that is qualifies for my program has became a client, and I've had quite a few closes in the last just 2 weeks, so I'm very grateful for that. But I have to again give all the kudos to God and everything that he's doing in my life. And he just asks me to just take that step, get out of my way, show, surrender and just do. And I have, and it's just been kind of effortless in a way, I would say, but it's because I surrendered it to him. Not that it's been effortless because, anything has changed other than I've surrendered. And I'm like, God, you take the wheel. And I know you have my back. I completely trust you. I know you're leading me in the best way for my future self. And yeah,
I
it's
love it.
it's worked. I knew
Oh
it
yeah.
would.
Oh
And
yeah.
so yeah, so things are definitely looking up with my business. Now I'm kind of now I have a different, not problem, but a different challenge. And it's now managing the amount of in a short amount of time. So that's the next thing. I gotta get more organized. I gotta have a calendar and just making sure that I'm staying on top of things just in a different way. So you know what I mean? The
I
the
love it.
challenges won't end, but I'm grateful that that one is now behind me, and I just gotta stay consistent and continuing to lean into what I need to be doing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love seeing those reels. I've been every day because obviously I follow you. Every day I
yeah,
see a reel posted by you. I'm like, go Adi. Like I'm so excited. And it feels so natural. Like, and when I've watched them and the ones it just feels so natural. Like you were born to do that. And it makes I scratch my head. I'm like, why was she so hung up? But again, like we don't always understand or even know what someone's going through and like the challenges that they're going through. But once you open up about it and you put it out there, and you obviously, we knew once you put your mind to it, you're going to get it done. It's amazing looking at all the content that you're just creating left and right. And whatever camera you're using, that camera is fire. Like it looks good.
iPhone,
iPhone,
iPhone.
it looks good. I mean, like I've been looking at all of them, and I'm just like, wow, look at Adi go. And again, it's just a testament to you listening to God and hearing what He's saying and taking that step. And it brings up something which kind of also leads into the conversation we're going to have today, which is I don't know if anyone remembers, but back in the day, at one time, plates on the front of your car was a big thing. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but at one time, having a front plate, not a license plate, but a front plate on your car that said a message or something was a big thing. And for a while, I would see these messages that would say, "God is my co-pilot," and we'd see those. And I remember a while back, this was many years ago, I was listening to a talk or sermon or something, and someone talked about that. And they said, I don't understand these plates that say God is my co pilot, because God should never be your co pilot. God should be your pilot. And it resonates with me because that's exactly what was your experience, right? Like you said, God, I surrender. I'm turning it over to you. Whatever you tell me I need to do, I'm going to do. And that's been my challenge and what prompted us to have this episode today. And what we're going to talk about in this whole failure is not the end is because of me continuing to try to feel like I need to have control over the wheel instead of allowing God to step in and be the one, be the person that is driving the bus, be the person that is guiding me, having that relationship with Him. And it's been very eye opening for me, Adi. Like from the time we've talked way back when in some of our first episodes, I know we talked a lot about the relationships we build with God and knowing who you are. You think at this point I've mastered it, but I still feel like I'm a student. I still feel like I'm learning every day and I'm failing every day. And for someone that's a high achiever, such as myself, failure is not something that ever feels good. It sucks. And there's a lot of parts in my life where I feel like I'm failing, and they show up in different forms. The most recent one was with my daughter moving here. When my daughter came, one of the reasons of why I opted to get like a part-time job versus getting a full-time job was because I wanted to make sure I had some income coming in, but I also wanted to be able to spend the time with my daughter. And what I've found is even with this part-time job, some of my old habits and things I've done before when I was working a full-time job have started to creep in. And the time that I did a lot for my daughter and I to spend together, each day gets eaten away. Whether I'm taking something else on within that part-time job, or I have another extracurricular activity or something that I'm doing that's taking up that time. And it wasn't until I think it was 2 days ago, my daughter came in my office, and what she said, it really did break my heart. But she came in my office and she knocked on my door, and I said, "Yes, sweetheart, what is it?" And she said, "Dad, when I came here, I thought you were going to be spending all your time with me." And it just
Mm.
it ripped me apart, because in that moment I didn't know what to say. I was like, well, babe, like daddy has to work. Like I have to make money. Like I have to make sure we can do some things while you're here this summer. And it just ripped my heart out, because it was an eye-opening moment for me that what I set out to do, I was not doing. And part of it was because I felt like I needed to be in control as opposed to allowing God to control the situation. Like, yes, there may be times where someone's asking me to do something else, or like I want to take on something else. No, no, I'm not taking that on. And whether that means, oh, I can get a few extra hours, that's going to add up to more time, I have to trust that God's going to make the way for me to reap the financials of whatever I need, or whatever that would have brought me. God's going to find another way to bring that to me. I can't rely on that. This is going to be the only way. And I think that's, speaking for myself, has been one of my challenges. Is I'll get tunnel vision sometimes, if like this is the only way and this has to be the way, when in reality with God, there's multiple ways. There's multiple ways of getting things done. He is a God of abundance. And I forget that. I really do. I forget that. And when I started backtracking, because obviously I once things like this come up to me, I start asking questions like, well, God, why is this happening? Where is this coming from? I started to realize that my relationship with God has really fallen off from where it was before. There's been things that I've allowed to take up that time. So just like the time with my daughter is getting sucked up, and my daughter came in and was just kind of like, Dad, I thought you were going to spending all your time with me. I could see God saying the same thing to me.
Mm.
Son, I thought I was going to be spending all my time with you. What happened? Where are you at? Why aren't you here? Why am I here by myself? What happened to us talking every morning? What happened
Mm.
to us? And there was just this inconsistency with things, like that consistency I had of waking up every morning and having that time with him. Instead of it being every morning, it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Sometimes I thought, oh, I can't get to it this morning. I'll get to it later. And although I would eventually get to it, it was just like I would slowly allow those little, okay, I'll get to it later, to keep pushing things out. And before you knew it, I was skipping whole days. And that relationship with God started to dwindle. And it doesn't mean that
Mm.
he left. And I think that's for me, and it can be easily thought sometimes that once we get out of sync with God, that he just kind of turns his back and goes the other way. That's quite the opposite. He's still standing there. The distance that we feel is because we've stepped away. The place that where he's been, he's still standing in that same place where you were at before. Just we keep going further and further and further. He hasn't moved. It's us. And so I've been focusing more and more about how do I move closer and get back in sync with God, and really start to align my life and everything back with what he has. Because when I was in sync with him and I had that relationship with him, life felt effortless. Like I didn't feel like I had to force things. They just happened because God's hand was in it. And whenever you start to feel, and this is what my experience has been, I don't know if anyone else out there has felt this, whenever I start to feel like I'm having to force things, or I'm having to put a lot of pressure to get things done, or I'm feeling a lot of stress and anxiety and things that just aren't of God, I know I'm off track. That's for me, my initial feeling is I know I'm off track. And I have to take a step back and I have to reevaluate, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. And like, what kind of hit me when, as you're talking about what transpired after you were, utilizing those tools, right? Because all of this is tools that God has given us, because like you're saying, God is always there. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't leave. He doesn't fail. He doesn't like fail us. He doesn't, nothing negative, but it's us, and he gave us tools, and he asked of us something so that we can know that he's there. And one of those things are having our time with him, leaning into him, asking him,
Mm-hmm.
praying to him, trusting, surrendering. Like these are all tools that we have, that God has given us, so that we can stay in that alignment with him. Because when we don't, we start behaving, acting, making decisions on our own accord. And God is there on the side, like, okay, she thinks she got it, he think he got it. And then that's when things start feeling like they're crumbling down. And then, we don't start making good decisions. We don't start feeling good. And then it impacts the people around us that, that we love, that, we want to keep our promises to, that we want to, make sure that they're good and they're happy. But if we're not fulfilled first, if we're not leaning into God and having him fill our cups, and that we can trust him and know, then it's going to be very hard for us to see behind the veil of what it is that we should do, what decisions are best, you know, and to know that we're going to be taken care of no matter what, you know. So what I'm hearing from you is that there was a place where things, your daughter wasn't there, or that you were just focused on you, and, you had more time, and, things were rocky, but more, you were okay because you were leaning in and you were doing the things, and you were,
Right.
and then something happened where you kind of disconnected, right? And you're feeling the effects of that, and your
Yeah.
daughter's feeling the effects of that. But the fact that you're recognizing those things, and that you can verbalize these things, and that you understand, like, wow, I'm noticing this major impact. Like, I really need to find a way to continue to stay into God, lean into him, and not for nothing or anything, whether I'm on a high and things are going good, or if things are going bad, I need to stay locked in. And the beautiful thing is that we have that ability at any moment, at any given day. Right now, today,
Mm-hmm.
you can reset, you can restart. You know, you're recognizing the things that you haven't been doing. And guess what? It's part of the process. It is normal. You know what I mean? And God is so gracious and loves us so much
Right.
that He is not going to feel any type of way or abandon us, or kind of like how humans will do. They will just be like, oh, they trying to play me, they don't need me no more, then bye. God won't do that. He will just stand firm with his hands wide open, just like, come in here, Antoine. Come in here, Adi. Like, I love you, and I just been waiting on you because I'm always here. And we can feel that peace immediately. We can feel that love immediately. And then we can ask him for the things that we need. So if you're struggling with time, right? You're struggling like, damn, I want to spend time with my daughter. I don't feel like I have enough time because the time that I have, I need to be making money. I need to be working in this job and I need to be doing this. But it's a conflict of interest,
Mm-hmm.
and it's causing you to not feel good, and it's causing, the people around you to not feel good. So that's already something that's not of God.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like it's like not an easy fix, but but it really is an easy fix, because you just got to recognize, what have I not been doing that I need to tune into a little bit more, so that I can start realigning myself with my day, with myself and with God, right? So it's just about getting into realignment with the things, because the money will come and God will supply that. But the relationship you have with your daughter and spending that time, and that like, that union that you have with her, and making her feel good and loved, that's more important, right? Because that's on a love vibration, and money
Mm-hmm.
is just energy. So
Yeah.
if you're operating, let me just get money and fear, you're not going to attract no money. That's a vibration that is going to repel
All
money,
right.
right? We can't chase money. We attract money. But how do we attract money? We attract money by trusting God, that God will provide us that money,
Yeah.
right? Because He is the bank. He is the ultimate abundance, of the universe and the world and everything. So it all comes from Him. So we need to kind of just go back to step one. We
Yeah.
got to kind of reset and restart. Like, God, you're the abundance bank. God, I know that you will provide. You tell me what I need to do in each and every day, in each and every moment. You tell me. I'm willing to listen. But in order for us to hear, we need to be still. We need to
Mm-hmm.
clear our minds. We got to clear our pipeline, right? That's the only way that we're going to know exactly what it is, the direction that we need to go, and be confident in that. And, making those decisions that are going to make you feel good and make those people outside of you feel good as well, because now you're doing it with love. You're not doing it in a fear, because I need this and I need that, and then everybody's just feeling that frantic, fearful Antoine. No, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you have to come from a place of surrender, serenity, positive feelings for yourself, and knowing that God got you. And I know that you can, because you have, and this is just a little hiccup along the way, but you can go back to there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it
You can
makes
definitely
perfect
get back
sense.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's and part of the reason the title for this episode, in which, failure is not the end. I don't know who else feels this way, but sometimes when you have failed, it feels like the end. It feels like sometimes you may not know, well, what's the next step I go from here? Or even there's a sense of shame. And I think what I was feeling, if I'm being very honest, is I felt shame. I felt like, I've been through so much over these last 6 to 8 months, in which God has showed up in a major way, in ways in which I can't even comprehend. And I've slowly pulled back from that relationship with him, and not in the way of like I'm just out here acting reckless, but like that constant communication, almost like, when you're calling a friend every day, when you pick up the phone and you call a friend, if it's like a best friend and you speak every day, and then if you go a week without speaking with them, how you feel? You feel like something's missing. Like you feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And you can go on and be a month out and never speak to that person ever again, or even for the rest of your life, but there will always be this hole of something missing. And then when you do
Yeah.
connect with that person again, you feel almost ashamed. Like, I'm so sorry, I haven't called, I haven't checked, I haven't thought about you. Like, I've been thinking about you, but I haven't called. I've allowed other, like, that's what you
Yeah.
feel, is you feel that. And I think for me, what really stuck out a lot in this whole experience for me as I've been going through this and thinking about it is it does come back to the basics. And some of the basic stuff that we talked about, even when we started reading Julian Gordon's book about money, was all what started to come back to me. It was like I started feeling some of these fearful things and old habits and things that I was doing before that didn't align with God's purpose for my life, didn't align with how God had aligned things for my life. And I needed to take that step back. I needed to understand. And I just want to let anyone listening, just again, if no one has told you, it's okay to fail. Like you don't know what you don't know until you failed. And
Yep.
I'm oftentimes, I'll be the first to admit it, I'm oftentimes afraid of failure because of what may come from failure, whether that be shame, whether that may be rhetoric, whether that may be how people may look at me and how people may think of me if I fail. But the reality is, if you're not failing, you're not trying. If you're not failing, you're not even actually giving it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be some person that whenever I'm 10, 15 years that I'm saying, I wish I would have tried a little harder. I wish I would have done this a little bit better. I want to give it my all now. And I think that's the challenge is, are you giving it your all now? When it comes to your relationship with God, am I giving it my all? And the answer was no. No,
Mm.
I was not. I was giving either God the bare minimum or I wasn't giving him anything at all. But here I was asking for so much.
Do
I was
you know
asking
why?
for
Like,
so
if you
much.
were to like have like an honest, like access of honestly,
Yeah.
why is it that you weren't, but expected so much? Because I think that there's a lot of people that are probably in the same place where they're asking, 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 but they're not putting in the work with God, but they're asking of God for so much. Like, is there a reason, like, what happened with you that you were not putting in the work, but
Yeah.
asking for so
Yeah.
much?
Yeah. So I think for me, if I, again, I'm just trying to think through where I would be. I mean, I would probably say it's because I felt like I've already, like we talked about sacrifices last time. I think part of it is that I've been sacrificing, right? And
Mm.
I think there's this element of, and we talked about this in our last episode. And it's funny how all these things start to come together when we were talking about sacrifices and whether you've sacrificed enough. And I think there's these moments where I feel like I've sacrificed a lot. Like
Mm.
there's a lot that I've sacrificed in the last 6 to 8 months since I had lost my job that to me I felt was like I've I've lost a lot. Like there's a lot that I've either given up or had to let go in my life and feeling as though that is enough when God's still asking for more. And you're like, what? More? There's more that I have to give. There's more that's being required of me. And the answer is yes, there is.
Everything.
To who much is given, much is required. And God holds us to that standard. He holds all of us to that standard. And it's I think there's this false thought around, well, if I've done this, this should be enough. And the reality is that it's not. It's
It's
not. And
not a
I've
requirement that because we give X, God is going to give X. We
exactly.
just give because it's not ours to begin with.
Exactly. It was never ours. It never was ours. And even when it comes to our time, like our time is being used for God's purpose in whatever
Yes.
way he so chooses. If he's giving you the knowledge and the skills to be able to go out and help business owners acquire 100, 150, $200,000, and he's giving you that skills, he's saying, Ariana, I've given you the skill because you have what it requires to do this. And I'm now want you to use that time to help my children, whether you're a believer or not, you're God's children in his eyes to help my children, right? And I think that's where I went wrong was I started to think that my time was my time, my money was my money. And the reality is that no, that's why God was calling me to say, Antoine, you need to look at your time, how you're spending your time. It's not your time, it's my time, but you're spending my time in a way that it's not benefiting the kingdom, or you're spending my time in a way that you could be doing so much more and
Mm.
what I have. It's not aligning with what I have for your life. And he did. There was a time he had me do this time study where I really had to look at all of my time and how it was being spent. And I realized that the areas where I needed to be spending my time, the direction that God was wanting to take me in, I wasn't spending that time in those areas. It was everywhere else. Like I want to create ways to have passive income, but then like I'm having to spend so much time and working at 9 to 5, right? And that was my first thing, like, well, I'm gonna pull you out this 9 to 5. But there was other things that God was requiring me of how I spent my time. Even now with my daughter being here, it's not so much about the time and sense that I need to, like, yes, I need to spend the time with her. I need to give her that time with me because it's creating the memories. Like, this time I'm never going to get back. But really, it's about the trust. Like, that's really where it's coming from. God saying, like,
Yeah.
do you trust me enough that you can step away from this thing, this work, what people are calling you to do, the things you feel are leading you in the direction that you think you're supposed to be going. Again, I'm saying you think because God's already figured it out. Like, what I think I'm supposed to be doing. Are you willing enough to trust me to step away from that and allow me to say, no, just use this time for your daughter? Are you prepared for that? And the short answer was no, I wasn't. I wasn't. And it's a sad reality. And it's something that, again, I've had to deal with because I know the time that I have with her is not guaranteed. Every day is not guaranteed. And she's not even here that often. And so to be able to take my time and dedicate it to other things and be like, oh, I'm going to get to that. Again, it's not like I'm not spending time with her. It's just that I could be doing so much more. And that's what I was meaning before. Like, I could be doing so much more. Am I doing my best? Am I giving it my all? Do you give your all to everything you do? I, I mean, that's a really great question. Like, do you? It's something to explore. I know there's areas of my life where I have lacked in the past and I've picked it up. And there's
Yeah.
other areas where I picked up and now it's lacking again because I've allowed it to fall. Like this
Yeah.
whole keeping things like up in the air and giving your all, it's hard work.
Yeah. Sorry.
It
I
is.
don't know to laugh, but
I know
yeah,
it,
I
it
mean,
is. It's
all
hard
of
work.
it. I mean, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest, all of it is hard work. And that's
Yeah.
why, you have your very few people that,
Right.
actually live their life with their purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing everything that they say they were going to do and actually accomplish it because it is hard work. It
Yep.
takes a level of sacrifice like no other, right? And it takes work and it takes consistency.